Raila Odinga is Kenya's former Prime Minister who served between the years 2008 and 2013. But long before that, he is one that has been known to be a pro-activist of democracy, good governance, and civil liberties.
Raila Odinga models a very powerful aspect in leadership, that you don't have a position, but you are able to influence. It's a very powerful thing, and I think it doesn't only speak to just leadership, but most especially African leadership, to understand that you don't have to fight for a title, position. You can be a leader and influence and leave a legacy.
People came to him and they were making these pictures of Baba when you were away, reporting to him everything that happened to them. Baba when you were away, Baba when you were away. He had the appeal of the masses, but the masses never turned him into a clown. I am a Christian and I am not shy to use biblical examples. A guy like Saul used the excuse, no, the people wanted me to do this, you know. A guy like Aaron, used the same excuse. Oh, it's the people who made me do this.
We don't have any kind of leadership that is flawless. Onlookers, they might view these people as people that were infallible, people without any mistake in their lives, but that is not actually what leadership is. So even when we reflect on Raila Odinga, he wasn't the most perfect man, but he was able to work around his differences with people. Good evening, our dear viewers from all across Uganda, East Africa, and Africa at large. I welcome you to our first edition of Legacies That Inspire Generation, a program that will be here to talk about legacies of great African leaders that have braved the storms in leadership and have ultimately come out victorious. And today we are here to commemorate, to celebrate, and to discuss the legacy of a fallen soldier, a fallen statesman by the name Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga is Kenya's former Prime Minister who served between the years 2008 and 2013. But long before that, he is one that has been known to be a pro-activist of democracy, good governance, and civil liberties. And he began his journey right from when he was in his 20s. I think around 25, he had already joined the leadership space and he had already begun to advocate for democracy, multi-party system, and he championed so many other things related to good governance. So today, I'm joined with my distinguished panelists or guests, if I may call them, who will say hello to you as we unpack the conversation of who Raila Odinga was, what his legacy means to the young generation, and what key lessons that we can learn from him as a man who was very influential not only in Kenyan politics, but both at the East African level and Africa at large. So I roll now the ball over to my guests, starting with Doctor. Please say hello to us.
Hello, it's a joy to be here to discuss one of Africa's heroes. And indeed, as young people, we have a lot to learn from him. And I'm glad to be part of this conversation.
My name is Joshua Tumwesiji, and I'm glad to be here and to talk about Raila Odinga. Thank you very much.
Yes, so those will be our guests and our panelists for this show, and we shall be having more of a casual conversation about who Raila Odinga was, what his legacy means, and what lessons we can draw, like I said earlier on in my introduction. So maybe to kick off this conversation or to set the tone for this conversation, Raila Odinga has been described by many as a towering figure in the Kenyan political space. And if you look at all the messages of all the people from all over the world who have been celebrating him, who have been mourning his passing, if you observe their words, indeed they capture the grace and the integrity of a true statesman, one who dedicated his life to fighting for the common man, to fighting for good governance, to fighting for civil liberties and freedoms. And as a young man who was born to the late Jaramogi Odinga, his father who served as the vice president in the independence government and later became the opposition leader in Kenya. And during that time, Odinga, of course, went to his primary school. He studied from Kenya, and later on he was sent by his father to East Germany, where he was able to get a master's degree in mechanical engineering. So as many people refer to Odinga as someone who was a career politician, he did actually have a master's degree in mechanical engineering. Then when he came back, he taught at the University of Nairobi until when he actively now began to get involved in Kenyan politics. And from then he has been able to influence greatly and significantly the trajectory of Kenya's politics. He contested for member of the National Assembly in 1992. That was following his 6 years in incarceration over fighting for democracy and the multi-party system. And so when he joined leadership after his first term, he went ahead to contest for 5 times as president. And the unfortunate bit was that in all those times that he contested, he was unable to wear the victor's crown. But nonetheless, he was able to greatly influence Kenya's democracy. Doctor, just to pick up from there and given that brief historical context, to you, who was Raila Odinga? Who was he based on what you've been able to learn from him during his formative years in leadership up to when he ultimately became a powerhouse in Kenya's politics?
Thank you. Actually, it's been amazing for us to see, as young people, a man who, like you say, did not actually take office as president, but he had such great influence, which brings us to the thought that leadership is actually not positional. How can someone influence the world, influence Africa, influence young people, have the power of the people on his side, even without a political office, so to speak? Yes, he was prime minister, but much of his influence was when he was outside any political office. So it's a great lesson for us as young people. Even in Uganda, we are in an elective season, and we hear all the voices, and everyone wants to be a leader. I support leadership. I vouch for leadership. But it's a lesson for us to know that positional leadership is not the only way for us to serve. We can serve, we can influence, we can have impact even outside an office. So as young people, we need to also think outside the box, learning from Raila Odinga. Yes,
surely. And what I pick from your discussion or your view of Raila Odinga is that indeed our leadership should transcend positional leadership. That very many people are oblivious to the fact that leadership can manifest in matters as mundane as family leadership. There is leadership within our different spheres of influence. So that goes to say that leadership should not only be positional leadership or political leadership like the tradition has been. So picking up from where Dr. left the conversation, we want to hear from you equally to weigh in on the legacy of who Raila Odinga was and who the kind of man he was in his leadership, both outside leadership, but also within the leadership space of Kenya. What do you think of Raila Odinga's legacy?
I think picking up from what Doctor said, I think Raila Odinga models a very powerful aspect in leadership, that you don't have a position, but you are able to influence. It's a very powerful thing, and I think it doesn't only speak to just leadership, but most especially African leadership, to understand that you don't have to fight for a title, position, or something like that, but that you can be a leader and influence and leave a legacy. Then you also talked about the fact that he tried to, or his attempt to come for president for 5 times and failing. I think that has something to teach us. That for me, reflecting on that, I began to think that it shows a strong loyalty for an idea. Okay? That there is something you believe in, and even when you fail the first time and fail the second time, you can still come up because you believe in something. So what happens with most of how we define leadership in Africa is that it's not ideological. You're not coming because there is an idea you're representing. You just come up because your friend or your colleague is a leader, and when you fail in one attempt, you don't have the courage to come back, and because you don't have something that you feel you can die for, you can live for, you're sold out to something. Okay, and so that is a very powerful aspect. To help most especially everybody who wants to become a leader, to understand that you must have something that is burning, that even when you failed the first time, you can come the second time, you can still come, and even when you don't become a leader, you will find a way of living it out.
Actually, before we go into the lessons we can draw, because I see now that the conversation is now going into the lessons. But before we reach there, because that is a segment that we shall exhaustively discuss as well, but still reflecting on Raila Odinga's legacy, he brings a very interesting point to this conversation, the aspect of resilience. And in fact, if someone is very keenly observant and tries to give an honest opinion on Raila's legacy, the 2 words you will define Raila's leadership are resilience and reconciliation. So he brings out the aspect of resilience so well clearly. But looking at the other aspect of reconciliation, Raila Odinga is one person that has been at the forefront of building coalitions for the greater good. And actually one of the things that makes him a statesman is the ability to reason and know that Kenya is bigger than anyone. And to that end, he then resorts to all amicable ways of resolving leadership and power struggles. And ultimately, we see...
What is actually surprising about Raila in this regard is the fact that he knew when to compromise, And I think that leadership is also, to some extent, the art of compromise. You know what things to compromise on and what things not to compromise on. So don't compromise on your values, don't compromise on what you stand for, but you can compromise on the timing, you can compromise on the processes, you can adapt, because like Joshua rightly talked about, and yourself, resilience. Yes, you're resilient. You push forward with the same idea, but it doesn't mean that even when it's not working, you should stick with it. You should know as a leader that now it is time for the good of the people to actually shake the hand, So as young leaders, we learn that it's not opposition unto death, What is the call of the moment? If the call of the moment is to compromise, not on values again, but on a process, on timing, on something that you can agree upon, because it's not, sometimes people think it's a do or die. This is our road, this is our path, and this is the only thing that we are willing to do. We know politicians who cannot even be seen in public with their opponents, and Raila modeled.
Actually, Raila, even at that point, just to interject a little, he has been referred to as enigma, to mean that he was someone that was complicated, someone you wouldn't easily predict. Today, you are in a political contestation against each other. Tomorrow, he's shaking your hand. The other day, you're going to disagree on this matter, on principle, but the following day, you're shaking hands for the greater good of Kenya. So, indeed, that was something really interesting about him.
Yeah, so he never carried grudges, Indeed, we all know he was betrayed several times, he was let down several times, but for the good of the people, he let go of a grudge and he did what was best. So, leadership above self, leadership above personal gain, leadership above personal ambition, leadership above just being stuck on one thing. We need to be able to think outside the box many times, in order for us to bring the healing that our nations need.
Yes, indeed, Doctor, you bring out very well the aspect of being someone that advocates for peace ahead of anything. And actually, if you look at Kenya in 2008, following the results that were believed to have been wildly rigged in favor of Mwai Kibaki, and the post-election violence that followed, we saw very many young people die, and we saw Raila coming out to show leadership through forming a coalition government such that they would have a stake in government. So this is a kind of man we talk about who, amidst all adversity, he will look at the greater good, the collective good. And so at that point, I think it is now only right for us to now start examining some of the leadership lessons we can learn from a legacy as huge as that of Raila Odinga. So what are some of these lessons that we can learn from where you're standing, from the kind of man he was, the values that he espoused, the kind of leadership outside the formal positional leadership? What can we really draw as the young people moving forward? How do we learn from such a great legacy, and how do we then influence our future as young people?
There is something I just wanted to not let go unsaid. You were talking about reconciliation and stuff like that, and then you talked about him being an enigma. Okay, I think there is something there that can teach us, most especially the young people, the young generation, about leadership. That if you say that you are opposing, for example, that you want the incumbent government, for example, to do better, okay, you're doing that for the love of the country. If you don't go through, okay, and you believe that your ideas or whatever that you have is for the good of the country, why not find a way of, working together with the incumbent government? Because it's for the government, it's for the country, it's for the nation. It's not for you as a person. You're doing that for the good of the country. Why not form a coalition and come and help? Or maybe if your manifesto is good and you didn't go through, why not give it to the ruling government that went through? Because it's for the nation. You want the good of the nation. So I think even when we are opposing, we need to understand that it's for the nation. It's about legacy. It's not about me and myself and what I should become, and the positions I should hold, or the titles and ranks, but to do whatever we are doing for the good of the nation. And that we can, even when I'm opposing you, I should find ways of working together with you because it's for the good of the common,
Surely.
Yeah.
And actually, that was a very good insight into our conversation. And some of the lessons that we can draw from his legacy is that we should always learn to work out our differences and work towards the collective good as a country. What do we need ahead of our different political inclinations? What is good for our country? And that's what Raila really espoused. And so, Doctor, as we near the end of our conversation, you know, we don't have any kind of leadership that is flawless. We have seen very great men, even our forefathers, the likes of Julius Kambarage Nyerere, the likes of Kwame Nkrumah, the likes of Nelson Mandela. To onlookers, they might view these people as people that were infallible, people without any mistake in their lives, but that is not actually what leadership is. So even when we reflect on Raila Odinga, he wasn't the most perfect man, but he was able to work around his differences with people, and ultimately that is why we are celebrating him. So to pick on from there, but also to weigh in on some of the lessons that we can draw from his legacy in shaping the leadership of our different nations.
Yeah. Yes, you rightly say something that is very close to my heart. Many people shy away from leadership because of that expectation of perfection. So even as we discuss and celebrate Raila Odinga today, we are not saying that he was perfect. I'm sure he was not perfect. There are many things he could have done well. He as a human being, had flaws. So when we call people to leadership, we are not calling them to perfection. We are calling them to be their best and do their best. And as young leaders, we definitely do not expect perfection of anyone. So we celebrate the contribution of everybody with their flaws. You know, we still celebrate the contribution of everyone. The other thing that really amazes about Raila is the call that we are Kenyans first, right? In a country as diverse as Uganda. By the way, Uganda is one of the most diverse places I've ever, encountered. Talk about the Indians that we have, the Sudanese, the Ethiopian, Somalis. We have a very diverse country before we even talk about all the tribes that we have. Yeah. So we must be people that embrace our nationality as Ugandans and then as Africans first, so that we do not play, politics of tribes. We've seen some people try to do that, but as young people, we must learn this from Raila, that we are Ugandans first, we are Africans first, we are Kenyans first, and then that should connect us, that should bring us together. I firmly believe in the unity of Africa, and we must do that. Yes, firmly rooted in who we are as different nationalities. I have nothing wrong with the fact that I'm Uganda, although definitely, as many know, I'm born and raised in Kabale, so I'm more Mchiga than I'm Uganda. But in my Muchiga pride, in my Muganda pride, Ugandan pride, I still embrace the fact that I am a Ugandan and I'm an African, and I will put my nation first. The other thing is something you talked about his father, being a top politician, and Raila going, following after the dad. But surprisingly, I was watching the speeches, and his son said, "Thank you for giving me your name and for not heaping the weight of it on me." So for someone that actually took the weight of his father and took after his father into politics, to not weigh it on his own son. Yes. It's something amazing. It shows beyond a politician, beyond a leader, he was a wonderful father. And I really wanted to mention that. And of course, we cannot go without saying his call for unity, his call for forgiveness, his call for peace. And, the man rose to meet the challenge of his time. What is the challenge of our time? What is the call of our time? How do we rise? Because it is now our turn. As we celebrate the guys that have gone before us, the torch is now in our hands. It is our turn. How shall we run our race, and what shall be said of us? So I feel that it is our time to do our best for our nation. Each man to stand in his own place, each man to shine his own light with the same conviction that Raila had. with the same sacrifice that he showed, with the same selflessness that he showed as a leader, with the same conviction. I am amazed that the guy's political career or leadership, ran the whole course of my lifetime. It is not something easy to do. To sustain. Yeah, many people, it's easy to get on stage, but to keep on stage and still make a contribution, it's something that is not very easy to do. The other thing, as I conclude, is Raila's ability to handle people. Many people are misled by fame, by the pull they have of the crowd. We've seen, I am a Christian and I am not shy to use biblical examples. A guy like Saul used the excuse, no, the people wanted me to do this, A guy like Aaron, used the same excuse, it's the people who made me do this, But a guy who had the people in his hand. He had, one thing I was watching, and it really blessed me, is people came to him and they were making these pictures of Baba when you were away, reporting to him everything that happened to them. Baba when you were away, Baba when you were away. He had the appeal of the masses, but the masses never turned him into a clown. It's very easy for the masses to turn you into a clown and you stand to just play for the people. But to have the ears of the crowd and you still don't fall for cheap popularity, because many politicians, unfortunately, fall for cheap popularity. They know the right thing to do, but they do not do it because they just want to please the masses. Raila, I think, did right. And it's not surprising that even when the young people, the Gen Z, rose in Kenya, he's the one person they were appealing to. Not even the sitting president. So, indeed, he appealed to generations, and his is a life that we are going to learn from. And as we say at So Away, he's now a guiding flame, showing us the way as we contend in this our day and leave a mark for those who come after us.
Wow, that was amazing. And you talked about something very interesting about Raila Odinga being a unifying factor in Kenya's politics. And Raila once said that, I have been there. I have been to the hill, and far beyond I have seen the promised land. I may not get there, but together we can get there. So that goes to say the kind of man and the leadership role that he took in unifying Kenyans to reach the promised land, which in this case is good democratic governance. So he will surely be missed. So as we really come to the conclusion of our conversation, Raila outside politics was actually also a family man. And even when we draw lessons from Raila's legacy, it is not only in the context of his leadership and politics. Raila was actually a family man that had one wife, a monogamous man, in an epoch where polygamy was still prevalent in our society. One faithful to one woman with his 4 children, and he was actually a very good father. If you listen to some of the stories by her daughter, while she was eulogizing the father, he used to actually talk about most of these things, about how light-hearted he was. And even on social media, we've been able to see him as someone that was always one who lived in the moment. So he actually says that he promotes love. He's a very strong proponent for love. He will say that the best way for us to live in society is through having love for one another. And so he was, even outside politics, still someone that was exemplary in beyond leadership. So I just want to roll back the mic lastly to each one of you to just give us in under 1 minute, what are some of your parting shots? What is that one thing you'd want to tell any young person out there listening to this conversation as we wrap up this conversation? So over to you, Doctor.
Again, it's just a call to us as young people. Africa is the youngest continent. Even as we celebrate someone that has been in leadership for over 30 years, we remember that over 75% of all Africans are actually younger than me. So it is our time to show up, to pick the lessons from giants like Raila Odinga. Because I personally believe that although we are rising as young people, it's not to push away the people who have gone before us. It is to learn from them as much as we can. It is to stand on their shoulders. It is to take up their wisdom. As Africans, we're really used to taking up the wisdom of the people who have gone before us. So it is with that to stand up and face the challenge of our day. You know, the challenge of our day may not be multi-party system like Raila Odinga did, but probably it is the economic empowerment. It is the unemployment that is really killing us as Ugandans, as Africans. What is that you as a person are taking up to show up in this your day, in the fierce urgency of now, to play your part, so that at one point people may sit down to also talk about you having left a mark and having changed the times.
Wow. Thank you very much, Doctor, for that. And we will also have 1 or 2 words in under 1 minute as we conclude.
Yeah, thank you. I think one lesson that I want to draw and conclude with is to understand that as a leader, you don't have to have a position to influence. You don't need a position. You don't have to fight and die for a position, but you can die for an impact to make an impact. And also to embrace the identity, you know, to understand that you are a Ugandan, okay, you are an African, and that's more important than your leadership, ambitions and stuff like that. So if we can, as young leaders, focus on the most important things, okay, and avoid the things that separate us, the differences, but find the common goals and push our nations and love our nations and be loyal to the values that promote and contribute to our nations. I think one day people will see it, like Doctor said, and talk about the impact, which is what I believe God has created every man to be or to do, to leave a mark, to leave an impact.
Definitely.
Not to just be a man who or a woman who had positions and titles, but somebody who touched the lives of people. Yeah.
Yes, surely. And that brings us to the end of our conversation. And based from what our guests have been able to weigh in on Raila Odinga's legacy, I think for me my biggest lesson is to, one, always fight and stand by what is true and that which is right. And that is the kind of leader that Raila Odinga was, that he would never remain silent in the face of injustice, in the face of impunity. And even recently, when I was hearing a conversation about still people discussing his legacy, they say that Kenya had 4 arms of government. It had the executive, it had the judiciary, it had the parliament, the National Assembly, and Raila Odinga. So that is the kind of influence that he wielded in Kenyan politics. So he's one that stood for what was right, and for that he was incarcerated for a cumulative 9 years, and he went through all hardships, but ultimately he remained true to his values. That is my biggest lesson. And then the other lesson is that him being a unifying factor, that we must transcend the politics of ethnicization. He was one from the Luo ethnic extraction, but at the national level, he unified people from all across different ethnicities, and that is what we demand of our leadership, and that is how we should really act. So that brings us to the end of our conversation. Thank you very much, our dear, lovely guests, for really unpacking this conversation. And indeed, a giant has fallen, and we must fill those shoes as the young generation. What shall we be remembered for the greater good of not only our individual countries, but towards our African continent. So thank you very much. See you again as we continue to have these conversations about legacies that inspire generations. Bye-bye.